Hello, and welcome to Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast. This week I'm going to keep the intro very short, as I always do when Kevin isn't here to do a back and forth with me, because I don't have the confidence to speak on a mic on my own in my room. So, with that being said, I do have the confidence to ask you for money and support for the podcast. If you'd like to do that, you could do it by leaving us reviews on whatever podcast app or platform you decide to listen to us. We always do prefer if you download an episode because it helps statistics better than just streaming. You could also decide to tell a friend. That's a good way of helping us. Or you could just, the old classic way of giving us that cold, hard cash dollar. And the best way to do that would be on buymeacoffee.com. We have a page on that, Shite Talk History, Buy Me a Coffee. You can find it on the Instagram. We link to it on all of our socials, I believe. So you can do that. Or if you'd like to, alternatively, you could go buy a t-shirt from us at Big Cartel and just Shite Talk Big Cartel. You'll be able to find t-shirts there. Kevin's girlfriend, the wonderful Lisa, has decided to start making tie-dye versions. So mine's a tie-dye version. I think now everyone wants a tie-dye version. I think it's just going to have to be the way. But that's probably enough begging for this week. If you could follow us on social media, tell people all about it. All of those things that you hear every podcast say, the reason they do it is because it actually genuinely helps. In the past month, we've actually had a bunch of people reviewing, which has helped incredibly. It's put us into a lot of new charts. It's made a lot of new people find us, which has been awesome. Some people are reaching out. We'll talk about new projects and stuff we've coming up with other podcasts, and some guests we'll have on this thing eventually. But that's about all the housekeeping we have for this week. We'll start the episode in a second, but I would like to say that at the end of this episode, we have a very special surprise. We have a new single from James Lonergan. If you know James, it's through me, because he's my friend, fantastic musician, incredibly talented. I love the man, I love his music, and I'd really appreciate if you'd listen to the song at the end, Braid, his new single, and then go follow him. Share the song if you like it, and if you don't, share it anyway. Come on, it's still the festive season. I know it's February technically now, but do it for St. Brigid actually, because that's who this episode is about. Go on, do it for Bridget, or else she'll be cross. But hey, and we'll leave it on that. Go on, good luck. Enjoy the episode. We'll chat to you next week. After.
Gather around now, you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, all in search of a glory. History and mystery of lads, lasses and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall. Follow me now as we go back in time. We trace the steps of Irish heritage to find. Joseph from Carlisle and Cavern and Dawn guide you through the ways of Shite Talk.
Kevin, would you know what the word or name Bridget means?
No. Does it come from bridge?
No. It means exalted one. Now, Kevin, right. Do you know what the word exalted means?
Like hailed to.
Yes, like stones.
Yeah, just like hailstones.
Yeah, that's high praise though. A lot of pressure. If you're like, that's like bringing in a kid into the world, and his name's Champion.
Yeah, or like chosen one,
revolutionary. I mean, imagine calling your kid revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a lot of emphasis put on them. You're always going to be looking at them as they're growing up. That's they're the golden child at that stage.
Or one I've always enjoyed is like Freedom, which is the Irish name Saoirse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you met someone day to day, if you had a child called Freedom, you would think that their parents were nut jobs, but Saoirse is a fairly common.
Saoirse's my go-to name for getting Americans to realise how crazy the Irish language is.
Yeah, and Neve. They really struggle with Neve.
Neve. True. And socialism.
And socialism, yes.
Yeah.
But
now, so there's St. Bridget. So we'd be familiar with St. Bridget.
Yes.
Kevin.
And you're telling me now that means exalted one, and it has nothing to do with someone who's proficient at getting across large to medium-sized bodies of water.
No.
Right.
Not at all.
Or the card game Bridge. Unrelated.
She wouldn't have been a gambling woman.
Okay.
No. Take that back.
I've heard a few stories about her that she laid down cards with the best of them, but listen, I don't want to get... we promised for this season there'd be no more libel issues, so I take back everything I've said about St. Bridget thus far.
We might be able to fight Dennis O'Brien, but I don't know if we can overcome the Roman Catholic Church.
No.
Right, so we've got that Saint Brigid.
Yes.
Which the day and the cross and all is named after. But there is a member of the Tuatha De Danann called Brigid. That's you know the Tuatha De Danann, Kev.
I do. Everything I know about the Tuatha De Danann comes from our mates at Candlelit Tales. I think everything I've learned about them. Yeah.
Oh, and your man from the Hole in the Wall, that pub in Kilkenny, he knows all about Irish like pixies and fairy and nether realms and stuff.
Oh yeah.
If you just go have pints there, he'll tell you all about it. It's great. But this Brigid was the daughter of Dagda. Now, a druid, kind of a father, like king. Name me. Yeah, he's that. He's one of, I don't know enough about the Tuatha De Danann.
He's Daddy Dagda. I know. We know enough to go on.
Yeah, Big Daddy Dagda.
Yeah,
and she was also now the wife of another fella called Braid. He was also a king, and by all accounts, a bit of a shite hawk.
Now a lot of naysayers, but listen, he did a lot for mental health. Old Braid, the big black dog.
Oh yeah, he's telling his dolphin tale, is it? You ever hear that? The one he always tells about, like, I don't know, is it Dunleary being chased by a dolphin or a shark or some shite?
There's a big difference between those two, but I think one will just eat you, the other will rape you and then eat you.
Well, here's the thing, Kevin. There's no real difference between a dolphin and a shark if the story is fake. If it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Does it really matter what you say?
Fair. True.
So this Brigid, the Tuatha De Danann one, she invented keening, which is a cross between like a cry and a bit of a song, like weeping and wailing singing.
Class. That's
like Sean-Nós, maybe, I don't know. Like
Sean-Nós singing.
Yeah, because then she invented this when her son Ruin died.
Right.
She also invented a type of whistling for the nighttime travels.
It's unfair. Imagine living in a time where you could invent whistling and also sad, like bad karaoke singing.
Well, I don't think she's going to karaoke, Kev. Her son's just died.
But she's like the patron saint of podcasting, because it's for people who are like, I really want to get into, like, you know, I really want to be in a band, but I can't sing or play an instrument, so I'll just do a podcast, or I'll learn how to whistle or sing in a sad way. What about whale singing?
She's not the patron of podcasts, Kevin. She's the Patreon of podcasts.
There you go. That's the best joke of the season so far.
It is just one episode old. And we're only a few minutes in.
Listen, we've got room to improve, but that's the bar.
What do you think? What do you make of the? She also invented that whistling for nighttime travels.
A special whistle for nighttime travels.
I reckon she was getting rolled at the nighttime, and people were like, "What's that sound?" She goes, "It's a whistle for the nighttime." That doesn't sound right. It's a sad whistle for the nighttime. The sex isn't great.
I would imagine if you're traveling by night in these times, you probably wouldn't want to bring attention to yourself. So walking around whistling is probably not a great idea.
That's
but I do love the idea of a special kind of whistle that's reserved for nighttime.
Well, what would it be? No, we can't be doing cat calls, Kevin. It's 2021.
Yes, I only want to learn how to whistle so I can be more sexist.
Especially not on the St. Brigid episode. We can leave the sexism for, I don't know, we'll do a Sean Connery episode soon. No, that Brigid was the patroness of poetry, blacksmiths, I guess, medicine, arts and crafts, cattle and other livestock, sacred wells, and spring coming early. Yeah, no, she was in charge of more departments than an Irish minister. I'm the minister for medicine and livestock and the arts and groundhog
and cattle. Yeah, I was going to say groundhog day. You say she's in charge of spring coming early.
Yeah.
So she's minister for Puxatawny Phil, minister for people who are stuck in an infinite time loop, minister for podcasters. I'm over the department of sad songs and nighttime whistling, which is a new field that we have this year. Separated. Whistling was too broad, so we had to split it up. It's a big area.
Well, I've forgotten one as well. She's the goddess of relatively high dimensions, like flames or hills or the rental rates in Dublin or Kevin after 2 pulls of a joint or my opinion of myself. You know, the real high stuff.
She's got a lot of ground to cover.
We'll get onto her covering ground later on. That's the other Brigid.
Yes, that's a story I kind of half remember, but yes.
Yeah, I was actually trying to figure it out a few months ago. I remembered the story faintly, and I was even calling people. Like, I called me Ma to go, do you remember this story of some woman who was going to be given some land, and it was going to be the size of a blanket? And I will tell this story properly later on.
Yeah.
But no one could tell me until I went researching it. And she's like one of our three major saints.
Yes.
It's arguably her biggest story.
The only reason I know it is because, don't get jealous, but before I met you, I had done a very limited run podcast with my friend Enda. And the idea was that
How dare you?
we research Irish mythology and then tell it to the other person and see what they remembered about the story. I'm looking at your face now. You look so betrayed.
You just fucking replaced Enda with me.
Yeah.
Is Enda not funny?
Well, like this is back before I started doing comedy. This was like it was in like I might release it someday to when people
Definitely. We'll release it on the Buy Me a Coffee for the fans.
I always find that funny. We're like, I'll release this thing when people pay for it, even though it's not good enough to release for free, because it's like the two of us recorded it in my room or in my kitchen when I was living in Ashtown. It was like 5 years ago. It must have been when I was just starting to get into comedy, and it's just recorded on a phone sitting on the table between the two of us, and I was playing a record in the background, which means that I couldn't edit it because then you could hear the song jump forward like a minute or 20 seconds. I thought it'd just be a good way to have like background music in the whole thing, but obviously that's not how it works.
No, you add that in afterwards.
Yes. So we only did one episode, but we covered St. Brigid. So all I know about her is from that one thing.
Okay. But yeah, that's actually all I had about the old Brigid, because that Brigid then with the Saint Brigid were all kind of molded into the one.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, like post Christianity, because she was a pagan goddess or whatever. So it's now you have to like take that, mesh it with whatever Christianity nonsense are on about, and then you've got a new saint that everyone listens to.
Which is a great thing. I don't know. I doubt it was like uniquely Irish, but the idea of Christianity is very much against the religions of the olden times, where they're just like, it's not Greek or Roman or Norse. There's just one God, and that's it. Everything goes through him. The one God is tree, but that's not that important. But then when you come to Ireland, that's where the idea of saints come in, where the saints basically replace the pantheon of gods. So you've got like, instead of having the god of cattle and wells that are too deep and grass that isn't quite as green as it should be, you've now just got the saint of all those things.
Unless you're looking at it from a distance, and then it gets infinitely greener.
So they just replaced all that with like the various saints of these things, and then you just pray to them.
Interesting.
Nah.
What am I saying interesting for? I knew that. I'm not giving you those props. Like, I'm sure that's interesting for the audience. I knew that.
Yeah.
Right, so Brigid was born in 451 AD in Foggart. Where's that, Kevin?
It's outside Dundalk. Oh yeah, between Dundalk and Newry.
It is, but it's also not only is it just north of Dundalk, it's only a 32-minute or 42.5 kilometer drive to Roberto's world famous takeaway and diner. They've since filled that position that they had up when I referenced it last season for a cook. That's gone now. I don't know if they filled it or if they're just downsizing with COVID.
Yeah.
But people of Cloggerhead, support your local chipper. Their new website looks great.
I walked right into that one.
You did,
just like you should walk into Roberta's Takeaway and Diner for an excellent eating experience. I'm sure I pointed this out.
I went on their website and it asked me would I accept all cookies, and I just thought, they're doing desserts now too.
I'm sure,
because they do Middle Eastern food, Italian food, chipper food. They might be doing Ethiopian food now as well. I'm not sure.
Of course,
getting Zambezi night style, because getting everything in there.
You may not know the difference between Zimbabwean and Zambinian food, but by God, the people at Roberta's do, and they'll show it to you. I'm sure I said this the last time, but it's Cloggerhead, not Cloggerhead, and it's actually
Cloggerhead.
It's actually Foggart and not Fogart or whatever you said.
It's not. I'm going to keep saying it the way I want to say it.
Fair enough. Listen,
Cloggerheads for the boggerheads.
I forgot that she was. Yeah, she's from like near me.
She is very near, very near.
I went to school with her
just
sister.
just to say, by the way, Kelly W she left a review there for Roberto's recently enough. It's the last one there for about 6 months. She spent €160 in July and said everything was 100% perfect. Imagine spending €160 on a chipper.
Jesus Christ! And when she said everything was 100% perfect, she obviously wasn't talking about her life. Because there's something's not going quite right if you're spending 160 quid in a chipper.
Maybe she's just like stocking up for the full week. Maybe she's just buying food for the week in advance. She's going to freeze it all.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't be eating chip food 7 days a week.
No, I don't.
Far be it from me to tell you how to live your life from a health and fitness standpoint, but don't be eating chippers 7 days a week.
Yeah.
A message from the Surgeon General Brennan. But her mother was probably a woman called Braca. She had great energy.
Yeah. She often pitied the fool, along with her husband B.A. Baraka.
She was I shouldn't be laughing. She was a slave that got baptized by Saint Patrick. Although I reckon that everyone at the time was saying that they were baptized by Saint Patrick.
Yes, yeah. I think we talked about that before, but he's essentially, I think a lot of stories were rewritten to have him show up. He's like the Sam Lee of prehistory medieval Christian stories. They just
Stanley.
What did I say? Sam Lee?
Sam Lee.
Sam Lee.
I was like, wait, Sam Allardyce's assistant coach.
He's the Stan Lee of early Christian stories. They just rewrote. Again, it's the same thing where they just like took all these stories that already happened and then were like, well, what if St. Patrick did that instead?
It makes sense, in fairness. But also, I'll tell you now that I've left him out of this podcast entirely.
Yeah, fuck him.
Yeah, because we'll do another one on him eventually, and he'll just get in the way. Just know that he baptized Brigid, and eventually they have a lot of stories together. But like Kev is saying, sure, half of them could be fake. So who knows?
I will.
That's what you said, wasn't it? Isn't that what you said? Verbatim?
Yeah, no. Well, I'll quote that back to you when we get to the end of this episode. All of her stories are 100% true.
So supposedly her dad was again. There's going to be. I've had to kind of make this story. This is like what's the? Did we talk about that before? That Brendan Behan collection of plays,
yeah,
and how your man like takes all the credit in the foreword, saying he basically did it all.
Oh yeah, yeah. I found like a couple of scraps of paper in a drawer, and to be honest, they were shit. But thanks to my steady hand,
and then he never released anything himself ever.
No, of course not. No.
Yeah, but that's basically what I've done with this episode, because I've had to kind of form a narrative because there's so many different variant.
Yeah,
like this is what I was thinking about doing, one of those like a storytelling. Kevin, pick option A, B, or C, and that's how the story will unfold.
Okay,
but
like a goosebumps.
But I've got
book.
no time for that.
Yeah,
I'm like Volkan Ozdemir, if you get that reference.
I don't know if you're talking to me or the listener there, because I have no idea who Volkan Ozdemir is.
That's okay. Some listeners might. Ben might. My co-host from my other podcast, Hindfight MMA, which is a shameless plug right there. Now, supposedly her dad, like I said, was a chieftain in Leinster.
Right.
Dovetalk was his name.
Yeah.
And his wife made him sell auld Braca once she got pregnant because he was doing the dirt.
Jesus.
Typical Irish woman, though, pure jealous. Couldn't just let the man have his bit on the side. If that was Italy, or if that was the Italian-American mafia, he'd have his gouma. He'd have two gouma, Kev. He'd have goumai.
He would have been president. Yeah, that was when you said that he was a chieftain. I was like, but how could her dad be a chieftain and her mother was a slave? How would he let that happen? Oh yeah.
But a slave to love, Kevin.
Right. Yes.
Now Brigid gets sent off to be a slave to a druid, and her ma to a chieftain in Connacht. Story goes that no matter what he's trying to feed her, she'd just vomit.
Okay.
Because he was meant to be impure or so. Or maybe he could have just been a shite cook. Because my dad can't cook. Like if my ma ever went away for a day, like the one day annually she'd be let, I'd just go hungry.
Yeah.
Because I'm not cooking myself and I'm not eating what he's serving up. Like, what's more dangerous to a child? Grease burns or uncooked sausages?
When she headed off for Women's Christmas, yourself and your dad just sit around and share a pint.
just live on rusks.
Sure, at that stage, by the 8th of January, you just basically coast off of all the meals you've eaten over Christmas. Just let that ride out.
Because one entire day of rusks a year keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
That's what they used to say.
Fond memories.
Yeah. Also, my dad used to try to get me to eat rotten bananas by telling me that all the lads who worked in Burnside, like a local hydraulic cylinder manufacturer back home in Carlow, he'd say that all the men would fight over the bruised part of the banana. And that's just not true.
Well,
and why would you want your kid eating the bruised part of the banana anyway? And to this day, that's what I put my fear of manual labour down to. And bananas.
And for like, he might not be wrong. I can imagine that becoming a thing where all the lads just wanted. First of all, he was clearly trying to get you to eat bananas rather than throw them out, because like any good Irish parent in the 90s, that food wasn't going to waste. You're going to eat it whether it's 5 days old or whether it's fresh.
You can't throw it out. Think of the starving children in Africa.
Yes.
You're going to send them over already bruised bananas. I'm not going to stand for that. No.
I remember going through that thought process as a child, genuinely just being like, well, just post it to them. I don't want the potatoes. Just send it to them. Do you have their address? Here's a stamp.
My Trocura boxes were just full of food scraps.
Yeah.
I couldn't finish.
Bruised bananas and leftover rusks.
Oh, there'd be no rusks left over.
No, I suppose that's an oxymoron.
Yeah. But sure, Brigid had, as you'd imagine, a fairly rough childhood with a dad who couldn't cook either. But thankfully...
Yeah, with the father who couldn't cook and the whole mother's a slave.
Yeah.
That old chestnut.
I didn't have the mother slave thing, so she's bested me on that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I had me ma, and Brigid had a magical cow, a white cow with red ears that had come by and sustain her with its milk.
Cool. Is that
I just realised, does that sound like I'm comparing my ma to a cow?
I did think that as soon as you said it, yeah. I had my mother, but luckily Brigid also had a magic cow.
She listens to this podcast.
I know.
Not Brigid or the cow, my mother, the cow. No, I love my ma. Hi, Anne. She listens. Now, as a youth, Brigid, she wasn't the best child.
Well, sorry, actually, the cow you described there, that's the Dairy Bell cow.
Is it?
Well, what did you say there? A cow with red ears who comes around and
yeah.
What's the cow I'm thinking of? The laughing cow?
Yeah. Is it laughing cow cheese? Is that the thing?
Yeah. Well, a red cow with white ears.
No, this is a white cow with red ears.
Oh, sorry. Well, okay. It's
It was forever hearing people talk about it behind his back.
Yeah. People kept calling it a cow, and it was like, oh, thank you.
She kept calling it Anne Brennan.
And I just wanted to let you know that I do not approve of this. Is like a Bizarro World podcast where you're slagging your own ma and I'm trying to defend her.
Because I keep trying to set you up to do it and you won't.
I like your mam.
I love my mam, but I'm still going to tear strips off her on this podcast. Yeah, she was as a youth. Brigid was forever doing nice deeds, which is only commendable if you're a good person.
Yes. So this is where her and your life really differ.
Yeah, oh no, for sure. Yeah, I don't. This is why I'm not a saint.
Yeah.
Yes, I could have a miraculous turnaround in my late 20s.
Yeah,
could be a thing. But at around the age of 10, this is one of these things of it could be multiple different accounts of possibilities of what happened. Maybe she was giving away her druid's possessions as well, but it sounded like at the age of 10 she gets sent back to her dad to be a slave girl in the place. So not sexual, it's not like a Woody Allen type deal, but it's she goes back there, and because he's a chieftain and rich and she's so nice and holy, she gives away all of his stuff, Kev. So like anyone who comes and asks for any, like, oh, could I have that hat? Yeah, here, take this hat. Oh, what's that ring? Oh, here, you want it? Here, have it.
Okay, so he's not happy with this conduct.
Yeah, he's not a happy camper.
Not a happy slave owner.
No. He ends up bringing her to the King of Leinster,
right,
saying, this one keeps giving away all my stuff, or else he brings her there to sell her, I'm not sure, to the King of Leinster. But I don't want to besmirch the King of Leinster's name. I feel that their family could actually sue us if he's the lineage could still be there.
I think you don't want to besmirch the King of Leinster's name because you can't pronounce
it. Possibly. But he, while Dovetalk is there talking to the king, he realizes, oh Jesus, she's after talking to a leper and giving away me sword full of jewels and such.
So she's quick at least.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah.
You bring her somewhere to give out to her for giving stuff away, and while you're explaining that to someone, she's after giving away one of your most prized possessions. Now, or possibly what she did was, if she was being sold to the king of Leinster, she prayed to God that she'd be kicked. And I don't mean like physically. I mean, no, physically in her face. I mean, like she would be ugly, and that's exactly what happened. She,
Right.
it's like half her face fell off or something. She was just rotten.
Yeah. Because I don't know if you're going to do variants on this bit, but I had heard, the story I had heard was the same thing, that she was going to be sold off to a lord or the king of Leinster, and she stabbed herself in the eye with a fork.
No, so that's another story I have in a bit about the same thing. She was walking by, and then there's lads on the street kind of catcalling, and they're like, "Oh, you're gorgeous," and they say, "Oh, look at those eyes. Some lad, he'll want them someday." And she goes, "Not if I have my way with it." So she stabs herself in the eye. Yeah.
She looked right at them and was like, "An eye for an eye," and then they were like, "That doesn't really make sense in this context," but the damage had already been done.
No, yeah, and it starts bleeding a lot, and her brothers are around, I think. But it says brothers. I never heard that else about brothers.
Sure.
So yeah, they try to go and help her, but there's no water to clean the wound, so she tells them to shove her staff into the ground, and a little stream will pop up, and that's exactly what happens. And they clean the wound, and no water that fixes stabbing yourself in the eye.
Absolutely.
So then she's grand then, but she does swear that the lad who'd said it to her, that his eyes will blow up inside of his head, and that's exactly what happened. Not so saintly.
Well, I guess, so that is an eye for an eye then. I stab my eye,
Yeah.
blow up yours.
Two of them seemingly as well, so and her eyesight came back because they fixed it with the water.
All right, so the water fixed the whole thing.
It's probably holy water. A wizard did it.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so either the king goes, it's either he's trying to buy her or to marry her, or your man's trying to get rid of her because all of this giving away all of his possessions sort of crack. But either way, the king says he has no interest and she should be freed. Because either now it's probably because she's ugly, or because she's like, well, I don't want her giving away my things. So just let her be.
She's already given away his sword, but in about 2 minutes. He's like, why would I want that?
Yeah. So now once she's free, she goes out west to Connacht, where her ma had been sold off to that chieftain fella, I was saying.
Yeah.
And she's there working for him, slaving away in that, and in charge of his dairy. Brigid would take over, and again, she'd give away the butter and the milk.
Yeah, fair enough.
But here's the thing, she'd pray for it, and the next day it'd be all replenished again.
That's just how cows work anyway.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, I took this egg from a chicken, and then I prayed, and then the next day...
There, lo and behold, thanks to the big man, another egg. He has bequeathed us upon us.
But yeah, so I was thinking for a while that, well, there's no losers there. Everyone gets milk and butter. But the chieftain is like, there's now lack of supply, and there's more supply than there is demand because everyone's getting it for free. So the cost of dairy would have gone down. So he would probably have to do...
Disrupted the whole butter milk economy.
Yeah, so like, what's he going to do now if everyone's already getting it for free? He's going to have to start doing artisanal butters and cheeses.
Yes. Where you give out the regular milk and butter for free, but then you have like a subscribers only Patreon milk and butter, without actually revealing that the milk and butter that you put on Patreon is just the same as the regular stuff, if not worse.
It comes in a different package though.
Yeah.
It's got green twine around it instead of blue this time.
And because people have paid for it, they convince themselves, actually, you really can taste the difference. It's much better for you. Less toxins.
More antioxidants, I heard.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah. But
I read it on a blog that I pay for.
Supposedly Brigid returns to Dovetalk again. And that's why I think all the timelines are just messed up. It's like a Christopher Nolan movie. It's like watching Tenet.
Yeah, and then at the end of the film, when it reveals the time gimmick, you're like, oh, right. Okay, that would have been a shit movie if it was normal.
I've always said that about Memento. Put it back in the regular speed. The regular timeline. Meh. Yeah. What about it? But yeah, for some reason, if she does return to Dovetalk, or maybe she's going over to see her dad, who knows? But he wants to marry her off to a bard. She says no. She'd rather stay frigid Brigid. That's what they call her, because she was a nun. She'd rather stay abstinent for life.
Yeah,
and she was serious about it too. Because I guess this is the time she prayed for her face to be
melting the face
rotten.
off, stabbing her in the eye. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but whenever she made her final vows, it did go back.
Right.
Yeah. So, and they say St. Patrick read her final vows as a nun. So whenever that happened, then she became gorgeous St. Bridget again. Which I don't know why she'd have to be so good looking. Why does she have to be
I don't know.
She's a saint.
Again, I think the Candlelit Tales guys, we talked about this with them, that like, I don't know, the idea of beauty. Well, sure, it's the same now in like Hollywood films. The most attractive people are the good guys.
Yeah.
It's just sort of, at some point in storytelling, being attractive got entwined with like being a good human. So there, she has to be beautiful at the end, so that it symbolizes she's pure.
What's changed? It's just like real life now.
Yeah, yeah, nothing.
But maybe she just got more attractive though as she got older. Maybe her looks didn't change. It's just that she didn't have kids because she was abstinent, and everyone else did. So by the time she was like 40, and all the other women were kind of bet down a little bit with the stresses of life and motherhood, she was there just with her rock tight 40-year-old body.
Yeah, having walked the length and breadth of Ireland, and she'd grown into the wonky eye at that stage and the half melted face.
At that stage, it was almost it was an accoutrement. It was better. It was adding to it.
Yeah,
kind of like a Bond villain with a scar on her face. You're like, if you weren't hot, it wouldn't be attractive. But because you're hot, it's your deformity is even more attractive.
Yes, yeah, you can do no wrong.
Was seemingly, I said earlier on about her St. Patrick reading her the vows, the final vows as a nun. But legend has it when he did so, he accidentally read the wrong form, and he read her the vows of a priest instead. And when he was told about this by a man, men always have to bring it up, but comes over and says, "You're after reading her the priest vows," and St. Patrick goes, "So be it, my son. She is destined for great things," which doesn't sound like a quote that actually happened.
Not at all. No. It's good to see it. Like, what are the odds that the institutional sexism had set in that early in the church? St. Patrick had only been in the country a wet week. Everyone was only converting to Christianity, and already people were like, I don't know, you're treating women and men the same, and I do not like that.
Which is weird though, because like in pagan Ireland, women were.
That's what I mean, yeah. So I don't know would we have gone backwards so quickly, but listen, that's the power of the Lord, I suppose. I was saying earlier, I was in a graveyard earlier because that's what I do now in lockdown.
Reliving your angsty teen years.
Yeah, exactly. But I was thinking about, I don't know, I meant to look up when this happened, but it wasn't that long ago. I'd say like the 1950s or 60s. A rule changed. Before that, women weren't allowed. There used to be like railings around the altar in a church, and women weren't allowed past that point because they weren't allowed near, like the sacrament would be kept on the other side of the railings, and only men could pass by them because women weren't pure enough to get anywhere near the body of Christ.
So what do you think they're hiding back there?
That's where the wine was kept. It was like a lads only bar.
You just open up the door and it's just a lot of lads sitting around wearing Celtic jerseys watching the football, drinking cans. Shh, don't let them in. Don't know. This is where we watch the fights on Saturdays too.
It was just a railing, so the women would be in the church. It was just like a barrier where the altar would be. It was it was the lads only.
Okay, that's that's recent enough. That's crazy.
That is like not that, because I know my grandparents' house, they have railings at the bottom of their lane, and they're the old.
And your granny was never allowed out past them.
She was never allowed out past them. She knew her limits. She was told to stay inside the gate, and God bless her, when she did get out, it was dealt with swiftly.
we dealt with that matter internally. So now, in terms of her religious life, there's not a whole lot known. She's like, she's almost like reverse Jesus.
Yes.
But less of the stories happen when she's already like a big nun or a saint or whatever. So she'd set up 2 monastic institutions, one for men, one for women. The one for men, the Church of the Oak. Oak is now seen as the Tree of Druids, by the way, Kevin.
Okay.
But it was built above a pagan shrine to the old Brigid, to a Daedanan Brigid.
Right.
Now, and that's protected by a hedge, and it said that if any man ever crosses the threshold, he'd be cursed to either go insane, be crippled, or die. So maybe that's a quid pro quo.
Maybe, yeah.
We can't go see the flame, and they're not allowed past the railings in the church.
Maybe it was just like petty revenge.
That place has 19 nuns, seemingly, that take turns making sure that it never goes out. I don't know if they're hitting a button like Desmond a la Lost, but
yes.
It seems like it. Like the world might end if they let that flame out.
So, what was the flame again? I appreciate the Lost reference. I think the Olympic flame probably would have made more sense, but I like where you were going with that. What was that again? So they had to keep a fire going?
Yeah, at this shrine now, they've got... I think it's still going to this day, like the famous tire fire in Springfield. Yeah, they just keep that up. Sure, why not? Something to do.
Something to be at, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, keeps the place warm as well.
Think about this, Kevin. Over the last 10 months, if you just had a nice candle to keep yourself occupied.
Yeah.
Just making sure that was going. It would pass the day a bit quicker.
It would, in fairness.
Now, she started out with a group of herself and about, I think it was like 7 companions. They're credited with basically starting out the history of like Irish women in the nunnery or in the church.
Yeah.
One of those companions was a Wicklow man by the name of Conleth. He was a hermit that lived out on his own in Old Connell, which is now New Bridge. One of the 3 chief artisans of Ireland, I'll have you know, Kevin. We're getting a lot of artisan references today.
Yeah. So, New Bridge is the sworn enemy of Naas.
Is that right? I know they're both in Kildare.
Yeah.
I imagine they don't like each other. I prefer I just go to the outlet centre.
Yeah, I don't take part in this petty rivalry. I just go to the outlet centre, do my business, and get the fuck out of there. Well, just like any 2 towns in a small county, they hate each other's guts.
Oh, for sure. And I imagine, is Kildare town just left out of the equation altogether?
Yeah, I think we talked about that before, but yeah, it falls into that thing of if your town is the same name as the county that it's in, but it's not the main town in that county, it's a shithole.
That's a bit also the places we'll be going to do gigs. So maybe
Should talk.
Roll back on that a second.
We'll be coming to you soon in a Kildare Village Shopping Centre. I met a guy at a festival, Rob Smith, I think his name was. Actually, it was my friend John Egan. How are you, John? But he is from Naas, and he went over and defaced the New Bridge sign to make it read Shelbyville, which is the greatest insult that any Irish town can be levelled with.
That's genius.
Classic.
Give that man a medal. Where was I gone to with this? Hold on. Yes, I was saying about the lads who were artisans.
Yes.
They're big into the metalwork and fancy glass designs, I think, was Conleth. And cheese, of course.
Of course.
But he'd go on to be the first bishop of that monastery for the lads. Monastery cathedral thing. The oath goes on a bit earlier on. You know what I'm talking about.
I know, yeah.
I also think he founded the Diocese of Kildare along with Brigid, I assume. They kind of ran it together.
Right.
They said. And she basically helped the church pick him to be like the kind of a saint of Kildare as well.
Yeah.
Did you know this? I'd say that the Diocese of Kildare is and Leighlin is probably the best diocese in Ireland.
Would you? Yeah, and I'm sure you're like that's not biased at all.
No, not at all.
No, it's not a biasis. It's a diocese.
That's my diocese biases.
Yeah.
My Kildare and Leighlin diocese biases is heavy on this one because my little village of Leighlin Bridge is also part of the Diocese of Kildare with St. Bridget.
Yeah, which doesn't really make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It makes no sense, but it was always, and it was really cool when you were getting like confirmed or communion or whatever, and it's like the Diocese of Kildare and Leighlin. Like, we're just a little village of like 1,000 people, and then the whole of Kildare.
Equal.
But yeah, they ran things together, like a power couple.
Yeah, a power couple, just like Kildare and Leighlin Bridge.
But anyway, one of the other people in her group of apostles was her eventual successor, her pupil, a lady by the name of Dar Lugdak, or I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah,
but daughter of Lou, your man from last week in the wrestling episode that set up the Tall Teen Games.
Oh,
yeah, she'd have been a bit of a what's the word, tramp. I guess she because there's this story about her sneaking out of bed one night and she heads off to see a young fella. Now this is brazen because she knows how much Bridget hates people getting the ride.
Sure.
And the bed that she's sneaking out of also has Brigid in it, that's daring.
Yeah, that's a bold move.
Now, I'm not sure why, but Dar Lugdock feels a little bit of guilt because she's Catholic, I assume.
Yeah.
So she puts burning coals in her shoes. This is
she puts burning coals in her shoes because she snuck off and to meet up with a fella.
Yeah. Now, I guess I think it's Brigid might say it to her the day after when she tells her this, that the reason she did it, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Brigid did it to her. No one knows.
I'd imagine that Brigid did it to her. Because this sounds like a sort of story that Brigid had told later on.
Yeah, she
was so overcome with guilt, she put the coals in her shoes herself. She did, and let that be a lesson to all of you.
She said that was just to extinguish the fire of passion and to remind her of the pain of hell. But yeah, either way, when she tells Brigid heals her feet. So that's good.
And me being such a lovely, forgiving person that I am, I actually healed her feet. And don't listen to her version of the story because it's actually the opposite way around.
No, she might have healed her feet, but she also might have burnt them in the first place.
Yeah.
But you only ever hear that side of the story from Brigid. She was like, remember I was out there healing your feet? I was like, you were the one that burnt them.
Yeah.
You're like, no, but you're always focusing on that. Think more about, you're always glass half empty. Think glass half full. I fixed your feet.
And who gave you that half glass of water afterwards when your feet were on fire? Oh, Brigid.
Well, in terms of water, Kevin, it's good that you've referenced that because she was able to turn it into beer.
Here we go.
It was like a more Irish version of Jesus.
Now we're talking. I'm sorry.
We're not doing wine.
So far, you've just been telling me about the Brigid that doesn't want young people out riding and keeps trying to stab herself in the face when lads are cracking onto her. Where's the Brigid that's turning water into beer?
I think this is just a case of they were like, people really enjoyed that story about Jesus and the wine at the wedding, and we're in Ireland, so what do they like? And it's just, she's just spouting out Heineken.
Yeah.
Just like it. She's turning the river yellow with Pilsner.
That's my new pet peeve in films. Whenever it just takes me completely out of the context. Whenever there's like a billionaire or some high rock and roller or some powerful individual on screen, and they like go to drink a beer and it's Heineken. There's no way people on yachts are drinking Heineken.
No, they could not be. They're drinking something that we don't even have access to. Like I don't.
You were on about Tenet earlier. I think it's in Tenet where they're on like your man's like the richest Russian oligarch around, and everyone's on his yacht, and they're like, "Yeah, do you want a beer? It's a bottle of Heineken."
Yeah, maybe it's just the easiest thing to find at the store when he sends people off.
Yeah, maybe. Like he's never been to a shop himself. He doesn't know what the options are, and the guy he sends around just has a deal with the local off license to get Heineken. He's like, this is actually really good. I've heard it's the only beer available. 4 sticks of Heinerweiss, please.
Her prayers were said to be able to stop the wind and the rain, which is good. Now,
listen, Jason, where was she last summer?
Spain on holiday.
Yeah,
not doing the service for her country people.
No,
she's gone to Dubai.
Like many young Irish, taking her skills learned here and putting them to good use in another continent.
Yes, the Roman Catholic brain drain of the early 400s.
Yeah. And sure, it was my tax money that taught her how to stop rain. And am I seeing any benefit of it?
The Dovtak Maku Luger, getting all these names wrong. I'm not even going to try.
I'm really enjoying that, like, and I guess it's because she was maybe the more famous, but like Brigid is such a normal name to us now, and yet every other name in this story is a struggle. Yeah. There was Dovtak Lugnafwerle, Con Lesh and Frars, Dovtak McTinnot, and Bridge.
They're like they sound like the names that they'd give characters in Irish animations that they want to sell to Americans.
Yes, yeah. And there'd be Dove Talk would have like a cool brother who was big on social media called Dove TikTok. Revamping this story for 2021.
I'm going to continue with this story. This Dove Talk is obviously not her dad, but yeah, different fella. Now she's said to have turned down his proposal, but told him to go to the back of his house and he'll find a beautiful woman. Everything he says to her parents will go well, and they'll be dead happy with him, and it'll all be grand. And that's exactly what he does. He goes down, and there's a fucking girl there. So but also, he might have just went to his house, like, back there. He might have just stolen a woman.
Yeah,
He may have very well just have stolen a woman.
It seems like she might be facilitating human trafficking here.
It does. But that's our Brigid for you.
There,
It's, holier than thou.
It's either that
on
or
one
she has the
half.
ability to summon attractive women out of the air. Just like
True.
Lynx Africa.
Celebrating 25 years of covering BO in nightclubs.
Is that the smell of an old boys' secondary school? Lynx Africa.
Here's a teenage disco.
Yeah.
Now, there's a girl. There's another good story of here's another story for you, Kev. There's this girl who was given a silver brooch by a nobleman for safekeeping, but didn't he go steal it, throw it away, knowing that he'll get the girl as a slave? Then, she runs off to Brigid for refuge.
Wait, so he's like, hold on to this brooch, and if you lose it, I own you.
Well, that would obviously be because of the time period. You give the girl a brooch and you're like, I like you, here, take this. And then you go to the police and say, she's after losing me brooch, or she's after stealing me brooch or whatever.
Sure.
And then instead of going to jail, she'd be your slave for life.
I mean, it's not that far from like modern day mortgages. Here's a load of money, and if for some reason you can't pay it back, I own you now.
What does that word mean? Mortgage? I'm in my 20s, Kevin. I don't think that the word exists for my generation.
Well, I have one useless fact for you. The mortgage comes from the French mortgage, which means death pledge.
Oh,
yeah, so that's what a mortgage means.
That's very true.
It is.
Coming with facts. That'd be an interesting way to come if you just shot your load and you were like, "There's technically 52 states in America, only 50 in the continental." What the fuck am I talking about?
Mortgage comes from the French mortgage, and then I have syphilis.
But so yeah, this one runs off to Brigid for safety, and it was one of Brigid's fishermen by chance ends up finding a fish with a big old silver brooch inside its belly, proving that your man wasn't so noble. He was actually a cunt.
Yes.
Yeah, that story is in like every country in a different way.
I suppose if it was the other way around, I'd probably slag him for it as well. But it's weird that he didn't just hide it rather than throw it into the sea.
Yeah, because it's a silver brooch. I'd sell it to someone.
But then if he did hide it, I'd be like, why didn't he throw it in the sea? Why did he fucking keep it? What an idiot. So listen.
And I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for you pesky fish.
Yeah.
She was on her way to see a doctor about a headache. And she stops off in this house. The house has two mute girls, sisters, which is, I think that's quite unlikely. Both of them been mute, but they travel with her for a bit, and Brigid falls off her horse, smacking her head off a rock, and her blood cures the two girls of their muteness. Which
what? Oh, well, I was going to say that's not going to be good for Brigid's headache.
Well, thankfully she's already on the doctor. On the way to the doctor.
Yeah, she's already on the way to the head doctor. But how is her blood able to cure their diseases and not hers?
And why are they touching her blood and rubbing it on their mouths?
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen?
They try and lick it up. I don't want to cast dispersions on this tale, Jason, but I don't know, is the research, I don't know if it holds up under scrutiny.
Well, here's another story of her being... Well, I'll let you decide what she is here, right? There's these two women. They give her these bags of apples, and do you know what a sloe is?
Yeah, it's a berry.
Yeah, so it's apples and those berries, sloes.
I only know that because I was drinking sloe gin over Christmas, and after I'd heard of sloe gin a couple of months ago, but I spent most of that time thinking it was some sort of less fast gin. I only found out there was a thing called sloe berries recently enough.
You just thought it was for the thick people.
It's one of those things that you just hear and you put it into your brain. You're like, sloe gin, right? Yeah, it's the slow gin. That makes sense, but you don't question it. And then as soon as I found out about slow berries, I was like, what did I think? The gin, what did it just move slow? Did it pour slower? You get drunk less fast? I don't know what I thought.
That's what you're all about, Larry. Slow gin and fast women.
Yep.
There was so there's these two women that give her these different bags of apples and sloes. Brigid gives both of these bags to lepers. She's loved giving away stuff, as always.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know that leprosy was such a thing in the country at the time.
I don't think it was. I think all of these stories are just lifted from the Bible and then
yes,
say,
that's
but
what I was
in
going to
Ireland,
say.
and it's now.
Yeah. I think it's a thing that was definitely prevalent in like the Middle East at the time. They're like, she did the same thing here.
Bridget was on her way to the doctor. She stopped off for some hummus and a gyro. These two women, one of them, she gives away the bags of apples and sloes to lepers, and one of the women comes up and starts giving out to her, Kev, saying, "You shouldn't be doing that," blah, blah, blah. And she puts a curse on her land, I guess, and it pretty ruins all of her apples and stuff. I think. I haven't filled out that note fully, so I'm just making that bit up as I go along.
Of course, yes.
This story's fake anyway, so I have every right to do that.
Yeah, you can do what you want.
The other one says, that's grand, that's good, you should be helping lepers or whatever. She puts a blessing on her garden, loads of apples and sloes. All the gin in the world.
Right. Now, did she say that after...
Of all the gin joints in all the world, why did you have to bring a saint with a bunch of lepers into mine?
Did the second woman, make her statement after she saw Brigid curse the first woman?
I assume so.
As all the trees in her field withered, someone else piped up and was like, actually, I think it's a great job that you just helped that leper or whatever the fuck. That you helped that
Is
dirty
that a new robe, Brigid, as well? I meant to say, have you done something with your hair?
You're looking great. No, don't stab your eye. No, I just meant like, in a religious sort of way.
In a platonic way, don't be at
God,
your
put the
face
knife down.
There is actually a story of a nun who got pregnant. I'm not sure by a priest or by somebody else, but she'd fell for love and such, and got pregnant, and Brigid was able to make the child disappear.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I don't know what
I assume she magicked it away.
As she wrote in the coat hanger of the church.
Yes.
I think maybe
whisked it away with the love of God as they wrote down the 8th Amendment.
Yeah. And then there's no other information on that story that I could find.
No, if you want,
say, that nun didn't have the child.
If you want more information on that story, you can read the recent document released about the mother and baby homes of Ireland in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Christ, yeah, that was pretty depressing.
That was very grim.
Yeah. Well, to move away from that point, then we'll get on to something fun. We'll do the cloak story.
Yes, the cloak story.
Yeah. So she wants to set up a monastery or a big church somewhere. I think it's in Kildare, and this is probably one of the monasteries they're talking about from earlier on. But she goes to the king/chieftain lad of Leinster, and goes, "I want to build a monastery," and he goes, "Ha ha 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 ha! No, I don't want to let you do that." And she says, "But what if I just have a big enough piece of land that I can just cover it with my cloak?" And then he goes, "Sure, yeah, why not? I can't see this backfiring. This magical saint lady's not going to one over me here." And then she gets the cloak and hands it out. She pays €2 for it to get back from the room at the end of the night first.
Yeah.
And then she hands it to 4 nuns, and they just take off. She's saying mush, I think. Mush, nuns.
Suck,
mush. And they run off in 4 different directions.
Yeah.
And then the coat just fucking spreads, and it goes over the whole plot. It goes over all of the world, I think.
Yeah, that's the version I heard.
Yeah, it's the whole world. You put the cloak into the box, put the box into the car, drive the car around the world until Saint Brigid owns the universe. I think that's how the story goes. The convent, though, they did set it up, and they were known for their jam. They made class jam, maybe slow jam.
Sure.
Yeah, it was. It's like "I'll Make Love to You" by Boys to Men. It was
a great slow jam.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we're meant to eat jam on February 1st, on Brigid's Day. That's a tradition, seemingly.
I have never heard of that tradition.
But maybe it's just because we were always eating jam anyway. They were like, well, it's tradition to do the same thing we always do.
Oh, well, February 1st, I think by the time this episode comes out, it will be February 1st, or perhaps it's tomorrow or yesterday.
Hence the reason, Kevin, I've written this episode so that we can piggyback off all the people Googling about St. Brigid.
Oh.
So that we can have I want those casual listeners, like all the people that came in for the John Delaney episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I'll tell you about her death. She died of natural causes on February 1st.
Well, sorry, I
525
like that
AD.
the King of Leinster honoured that. I don't think that would hold up in a court of law. He honoured the cloak agreement.
No, but if you tried to give out to her about it or get the land back, she'd only start stabbing herself in the eye or something. So you just better off leaving it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. She died of natural causes on February 1st, 525 AD, which would have made her nearly 75. 74 is actually the number I'm looking for there,
which in fairness to you is near 75.
It is nearly 75.
Yeah.
She was given the last rites by a lad called Saint Ninny.
I thought St. Patrick gave it to her. No, that was the last.
No, that was his vows.
All right, okay.
Yeah, these are the last rites as she's dying. Yeah, he's by
Saint Ninny.
Ninny, Ninnidh, which I have phonetically then just put down as Saint Ninny.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, some say he had his hand put inside of a protective metal box for the rest of her life, for the rest of his life after it.
Right, that sentence really I thought was going a different way there for a second.
What
he gave her the last right. Some say he put his hand up inside a metal box out of a sign of respect.
Yeah, it was her chastity belt. That's what they're calling the metal box. Well, actually,
you added the word
nickname.
metal to that story.
His nickname was Ninny of the Free Hand. So possibly.
Ninny of the dropped hand cameth and delivered her.
And I should have said, the Darren Lugdock, her friend and pupil, or like the next in line or whatever, the next Saint Brigid, she was very put off by the whole Bridget dying thing, and
right.
she wanted to pass on with her, but Bridget told her, no, you have to stay alive to carry on all the work in my absence and take over the role of being the main saint, the big head honcho for the women. And then she would die on her anniversary. She told her that. No, you'll die on my anniversary. And then she did, a year later, which, if you ask me, sounds like just
useless.
Great luck, or she's after offing herself.
Definitely. But also, why...
St. Bridget and the suicide pacts.
Why let her, she's supposed to be your student, she's supposed to carry the torch. If she's just going to survive another year, that's not much use.
Well, no, it's like, I imagine if you ever be in a position where you train in the next person in a job, where you're like, I have to leave, but they've hired the next person, I'm going to train them in, and they'll have my role, and then I'll go. I reckon that's the same. They're like, no, you have to stay to teach somebody else how to do it, and then you can kill yourself. So you can kill yourself in a year, but...
Listen, if you have any issues, anything at all, big or small, here's my number, you call me, and I'll get back to you, and I'll talk you through it, and then you give them a fake number.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So she said to have been buried. Her and a lot of her artifacts and such are said to have been buried at the right of the altar at Kildare Cathedral, but the Vikings came along at some point, so we had to move it all sharpish. So her relics were buried in the tombs of St. Patrick and St. Columba. He's the other patron saint of Ireland.
The third one
people, that
you really don't hear about. No.
He does have Columba's Day.
Yeah. The day.
Yeah,
St. Columba.
It was funny enough, we'd only celebrated in America, because in Ireland we never really support our own enough.
No.
And that's,
you never make it big until you go and make it in America or England. It's a shame, but that's the way it is.
Now, in 1195, John de Courcy, the king type fella, do you remember him?
Yeah. Where did he come up in the Alice Kittler episode?
Oh, probably. Well, he was a real person, so that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. But he had them buried. He had them reburied in Down Cathedral, up and down. Remember that joke from when you were a kid?
Stop. As in, stop telling that joke.
There's a tooth of hers that an Australian archbishop by the name of Moran obtained in 1884 from a little church near Cologne, Germany. The locals weren't too happy about it.
I think you said Australian there. Yes. I assume you mean...
Australian archbishop.
From 1100, back when Australia hadn't been found yet by...
From 1884. We're jumping forward in time now.
Oh, sorry.
I'm skipping a few hundred years. I'm skipping 1,300 years here.
Yeah, keep up, obviously. I jumped to an entirely different...
Yeah, I do this podcast like Christopher Nolan writes films.
Yeah.
Come on. Have you not, can you not see it's seamless? We're now 1,300 years in the future.
Yeah.
So the locals weren't happy about... him wanting to obtain the tooth. The local pastor refused, only for Moran to go over his head and get the canon of the Cathedral of Cologne to step in.
That was a bit much to whip out a weapon. Pull the gun on him.
And perfume. But they took a chunk of it and got it venerated. So a chunk of it too can't be a very big amount.
No, a chunk makes it sound like a lot, but I mean it couldn't be.
No one, maybe she was bucktooth though. No one ever mentioned that. Maybe that's but they took her tooth to get it venerated.
That's very good. That's actually, I already forget what I said was the best joke earlier on, but that's a very clever joke. It went over my head, and I only realized it was a clever joke when you looked at me like a child that had done a good drawing.
Are you going to put that joke on the podcast fridge?
Yeah, it's going on the podcast fridge. You went to fake. You fake went on to the next line and then stopped, waiting for me to stop you with my laughter. It was venerated, and then you went into.
Where is this laughter coming from?
On my notes, it just says pause for applause.
It's just a bunch of ellipses.
Yeah, it says trail off.
It's just 2 pages of ellipses.
Don't put anything too important here because it'll be lost due to the uproarious laughter. The listeners won't be able to hear it.
I'm going to pause now for a couple of seconds to let it die down. I don't want to let the next sentence be ruined by it. In the 16th century, a lot of Irish religious relics were destroyed at the order of Lord Grey. No points for guessing why, but
because they were Catholic.
Yeah. So a bunch of clergy took her head to protect it, leaving it over in Neustadt, Austria, for safekeeping.
Really?
In 1587, it was then presented to the Church of the Society of Jesus, which sounds like a fake church.
Yes, I mean, the Church of the Society of Jesus is the Catholic Church.
But that's in Lisbon, and was.
You sure it's not in the city dedicated to the capital of Portugal, Lisbon?
And that was donated by the King of Bohemia, Croatia, and Hungary, Emperor Rudolph II. There's also reports of it being delivered to Portugal as early as 1283, where it was given to King Denis of Portugal. There were 3 Irish knights that were on their way to the Crusade of Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings
reference.
Yes.
Yeah, they have 3 tombs there now still, which read the account of them bringing the head over. So they're cutting off her head and bringing it over to Portugal in 1283.
Yeah, that's wild. I never knew that her head and teeth were passed around the continent like relics.
Not like relics, as relics.
As relics, yeah, sure, yeah.
They still celebrate the head over there, but on February 2nd, not 1st. But I forgot in terms of her head. In 1905, Sister Mary Agnes from the Dundalk Convent of Mercy took a fragment of her skull back to St. Bridget's Church in Kilcurry.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I mean, I said yes as if I know that happened. I know where Kilcurry is.
You just know Kilcurry.
You said Dundalk, and yes. I was like, yes, yeah. Kilcurry's beside Fahard. So it got it back close to where she started, I guess. And of course, also, I know Sister Agnes, but all the lads did. I guess when I was growing up in Dundalk, she would have been 100 years old at that stage. But listen.
In 1928, fathers Tim Traynor and James McCarroll asked for and were given another fragment to be taken to Brigid's church in Kildare. At this stage, they're just hacking her head up into bits.
Yeah. And these probably aren't the first people to ask for a bit of her skull, so presumably over the 800, 900 years that it's been on the go. I imagine the skull
is just a nose now.
Yeah.
It's like an inverted Michael Jackson.
It's just a nose, famously the one piece of your head that doesn't survive.
There's a lot of links to her spending time at Glastonbury. Because on her travels, she'd spend time out on islands and different places, but also in England, seemingly. And she'd spend a lot of time in Glastonbury. You'd never see her without a can. Just down in holy water.
I heard she was off her head.
Yeah, that's why she's just always on the water. She'd be walking around telling people how much she loves them and how they're glad that they've met and how they're going to be friends for life and they're so happy that they've met in this moment in time. Where's that holy water? Give me some more holy water. Can I get some?
I have been to Glastonbury Village and it is wild. It's like Glastonbury Village has got full on potion shops. People are like druids. It's like Do you ever see, like on a Monday morning after a festival when you're trying to leave and there's some just head the balls in a tie-dye t-shirt and like a giant grey beard going around?
I don't carry mirrors to festivals.
It's the one thing you're not supposed to do is look at yourself too hard. But someone going around with like a staff made out of cans sellotaped together. It's as if all those people who just didn't want to leave Glastonbury Festival formed a society. And that's Glastonbury Village.
I think that happened at wherever they do Burning Man now. They say that there's a whole town there, and it's wild. But I'm not going to go into the whole St. Bridget's Day thing because that's also heavily linked to the Irish pagan festival Imbolc or Imbolc. I got it right the first time.
You nailed it.
That's related to the Irish festival Imbolc, and I don't want to give away content for that because that seems like it's a whole other podcast on its own, along with like Lunasa and Samhain. And doing an actual... We're going to do these as live podcasts where you can come and learn about these things, and we'll do it on a stage and have people coming out pretending to be St. Bridget and stuff, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I want to be the wind. I want to be like... It's like I'm 6 again in a school play.
Yeah,
I want to be a tree. I want to be an oak tree. Yeah. I want to be the oak tree.
I landed the part of smell again.
Yeah. It was like, you cast it yourself, Jason. I know, I really didn't think I was going to get it. But there is a place down in Kerry called Kildare. They celebrate Biddy's Day, which is whatever weekend falls closest to February 1st, and they go around to pubs and other places. But I read pubs and then kind of fixated on that.
Yeah,
but, they were carrying
and probably other spots.
Yeah, but they were carrying around a straw woman called a Brigid, and they'd be blessing the places as they go and making sure evil spirits stay well clear of the people and animals of that place, and drinking pints along the way. Because a visit from Biddy means good luck, fertility, prosperity, and to not receive a visit was seen as a very bad thing altogether. Since 2017, they've organised an actual proper festival, and we're going to have to go whenever things open up again.
Yeah, because did you say Kildare?
Kildare, yeah.
Kildare also has the Puck Fair, where they put that goat in a cage, and they have K-Fest, that music festival that at this when I first heard of K-Fest, I was like, huh, do they even know?
Goat. Will the goat be at K-Fest? And also, what's the drug of choice?
Like, the more I hear about the town, I did a gig down there at it, I don't know, 2 years ago, back when you could go and do gigs. And after spending 2 minutes there, I was like, oh, they are well aware of what they're up to. They also celebrate this goat festival and apparently Biddy Fest.
The greatest of all time festival.
Yeah. It is. It's the goat festival of Ireland, the Puck Fair.
I like independence in Cork.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do, it's never traced back to you. Because no one, you can make a show of yourself, and the only people who'll ever remember or realise are Cork people.
Yeah,
so it's not even. It's whatever town it's just outside. It's not even all just Cork. It's just people from that little town. And then it's great.
Independence is, though, famously one of the most policed festivals in the country. It's supposed to be the worst for undercover guards.
Someone told me when I was there, it was actually how I realised that from that point onwards, any festival or music gig you ever go to, Gardaí dress up in super dry clothes. That's like the go-to outfit for undercover guards. So you'll find like a middle-aged man walking around wearing a super dry jacket that has about 7 different collars and 14 different pockets, 70 zips. Just that. Because when I was there was a girl, actually, now that you mentioned the heavily policed thing, there's a girl that got fined a couple of £100.
Yeah.
For, she was about to roll a joint, and the guard went over, stopped her, and then he said something like, "Oh, sure, just count yourself lucky, because if you had lit it, it would have been 3 times the fine." I was like, don't, there's no silver lining here. You're a prick. You're a prick. We're at a festival. She's having a joint. She's probably having the joint to calm herself down after the far more illegal substance that she was after taking. It's like when if you get popped for like steroids or like drugs in like sport, it's always like beta blockers, because they don't catch you for the steroids, they catch you for what you're using to get off the steroids.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we may go down there at some point, because I saw some videos of it, and they're like lads walking around with fire and swinging it, and they're like luminous hula hoops. And there's a thing called Parade of the Biddies, which looks pretty fun. And there's a King of the Biddies competition that I want to win.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to. I don't. Not even that you want to attend. You want to win. First time there. First time winner.
King of the
Going in
biddies.
hard.
But
We'll make a summer of it, man. K-Fest, Puck Fair, Biddy Festival. I mean, that's more than a summer. It's a whole year. But let's move to Kildare.
I think that's kind of like all of that's pretty much the story now. I've got one or two little facts that there's 43 places called Kilbridge in 19 counties in Ireland. So 43 place names in 19 counties.
Yeah.
Kilbride meant Church of Brigid, or probably still does, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's 43 of those place names in just 19 counties in Ireland, so they're everywhere. She also has links to anything called Knock or Bride or Breed.
Yeah. Well, one of the parishes beside like where I grew up is Knockbridge, which is the Hill of Breed, and one of the local GAA teams is the Kilbrides.
Ah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and that's because isn't she from there?
Oh, she's only down the road.
Yeah, well, like the white lilies are a flower that she's associated with. And there's another flower that I can't pronounce as well, but I'm just going to say the white lilies. But because she's from Kildare, what did they call the GAA team in Kildare?
The Lily Whites.
That's exactly right.
And she's not from Kildare, she's from Dundalk, and that's why Dundalk Football Club's symbol is a white lily.
Ah, but people from Kildare, I don't know, she was born in Dundalk, Kev, but this is kind of like me trying to claim, I don't know, Saoirse Ronan or something. Like they're like William Desmond Taylor.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he was from there, but didn't really spend much time and kind of left quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what I always assumed Michael Fassbender, because it was like, you know, he's Irish German. I'm like, well, he's obviously just born in Ireland and moved to Germany very young, and that's where all the skill and talent came from. No, Kerry, 100% true. Just as the jawline and penis of a German. Oh, and yeah, the United Irish, obviously the Lily Whites in Kildare, and they wear all white. And the United Irishmen of Kildare during the 1798 rebellion also wore white clothes too, which is I don't know, pretty. It's not common in war to see people wearing white.
No, but
you just surrender instantly.
Well, that's the Wolftones rebellion we were talking about in the Robert Ross episode. But yeah, that's because I think it's associated with, like, to be honest, I can't remember if the Dundalk football team is also called the Lily Whites, and I can't remember if it's because of St. Brigid or because of the paramilitary IRA. Because I think, the white lily sort of became a symbol of struggled conflict, we should say. Fair. And I don't know if Dundalk wears the Lily Whites because of that or Brigid. Either or.
Or maybe it's just because it's a cool colour.
Yeah, listen. Nothing strikes fear into your opponents like the Lily Whites.
Yeah. So the name itself.
Yeah.
Just, But, right. And that's pretty much everything. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm not going into St. Brigid's Day because you can come to see the live podcast when we eventually do it, or you could hire us for one of your coffee mornings or pint evenings.
And we'll tell you all about it. I think we have the clout now. You're always talking about getting that clout for 2021. I think we have the clout to, as a feminist podcast, let's all just get bollocks on St. Brigid's Day. Why is it just the lads? Why is it just St. Patrick's Day that's a day off? And a load of pints.
I'll get wrecked on February 1st. I'll be back on the
February
drink
1st, yeah. Dry January. Finish it off with St. Brigid's Day.
I've said, I'll be back on the drink by then. I'm drinking during the recording of this podcast.
Yeah. So, write to your TDs, email your local representatives, and tell them, let's get pished on Brigid's Day.
Yeah. You have to bring our own crosses. We should all. You used to get to make the crosses in school, but then you get a bit older and they stop. Like, it's only for like when you're kids.
Yeah. They're pretty cool.
The story I have about how she made them is there was a king or something freaking out one day, and to calm him down, she was just start walking around picking up all the reeds and whatever, and just telling him about Christ as she was just making this thing, and that kind of calmed him down, eased his anxiety or whatever, and then she just had this gammy looking cross.
I do like
it is good, but it's not the Catholic cross. It's like she really
it's really off center. I really like between her and St. Patrick that, like, the only way they could get through to the Irish people and explain Christianity was just by lifting shit off the ground.
It's like a rock.
It's like this leaf that I found on the ground. So there's 3 in 1 people. I don't get it. It's like this branch. Oh, right. So yeah, okay. It's like rice, curry, and chips, but in one container.
Oh, do not even get me started. I'm getting no. I had a kebab the other
we'll
night.
finish up with the holy divinity of the 3-in-1.
Did you see the crosses around much? I don't see them about as much anymore. But some people, you're meant to put them up and then leave them. Like they protect against bad things like fire, spirits, illnesses, and stuff from coming into your house.
My parents would still put one up, and it stays there until. Is it the whole of Lent it's supposed to stay there or something?
When I looked it up, it said until the next year. And I don't know if that was the case or not, or if it was just like people being a bit lazy, kind of like with your Christmas lights, that if you get to March, you might as well leave them up for the full year. Because there's no point in taking them down now.
Yeah, or changing the clocks back. You're like, sure, fuck it. Like, we'll leave it. It's only another 6 months. I think there is something, you're supposed to burn them. There's a day when you're supposed to burn them, but maybe it is just the next year, and then you burn the old ones.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay, cool. Well, sure. Look, we'll chat to you next week with one of Kevin's stories. Because I think I should have done 2 in a row by now. The way this is going, I think.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me a story right now, and then we're going to let the audience hear it in about 3 weeks.
Perfect. Chat to you next week.
Okay. Shafter.
Saw the magpie scream across the sky. Around me were strangers who couldn't cross their fingers. Roads are paved with sirens today, and the boy weaves his heavy horns through our fragile china shop. This, my friend,